Armada Book 6 Chapter 5 The Invaders Part 2. 2 weeks later. Andrew, the guys are all in your mission room. Andrew quickly got out of his stateroom and walked to the mission room. As Andrew walked into his mission room, Andrew on deck, a Talonot shouted. Andrew could see all the people stand and give a crisp salute. Andrew saluted, not showing his amazement that all his people, including all the alien species, gave him a crisp salute. He sat in front while Olive stood by the door. All sat down at the same time. Eric stood and gave a salute. Andrew returned the salute. Our people have prepped all the ships. Our crew has rotated going crimson invisible and mingling with the crew. Olive, please show the boss the grids, charts, and several crew scenes. Olive floated 3 dozen holograms for Andrew's benefit. Andrew quickly scanned them and, I see these people love to salute like you all do. Except that their salute is open palm. Maybe it means something. But the whites salute with a fist on their chest. And they all walk funny too. Eric noted, as Commander Tabuda briefed you earlier, we intend to just talk to them and send them home. Andrew looked at Ellie. Ellie, have you deployed the cloaking devices? Ellie stood but did not salute. Not yet, but we can beam them near the target positions near the target ships. Andrew asked surprised. More than 15,000 cloak discs? Wait, you did not salute me. Ellie saluted. We have 5 times that number in stock. Andrew returned the salute while seated. Andrew asked, did you solve your energy and capacitor problems? Yes, a combination of 10 fired-on generators and 10 demodulated capacitors per beam event. Roger stood and saluted. What are you talking about, Ellie? Ellie saluted back. Andrew stood but did not salute. Okay, what I want to do is something like this. Olive, please. A hologram of the 10,000 Atom ships and the 5,000 Lebit ships appeared. On 2 other holograms shows the Atom and Lebit homeworlds. First, we talk to their leaders, introduce ourselves as the Council of Aliens. We tell them to go home and develop peace between the two. Then with a wave of my 2 hands, we bring the Atom Commander's ships back to their home planet and the Lebit Commander's ship back to their homeworld as well. But we leave some of the ships where they are presently deployed. Then we beam the leaders from the ground to our ship to meet the commanders. Then we tell them to be nice to each other or else. Then we beam the ship back to where they were before to tell the rest to go home. The hologram shows some of the ships disappear and reappear near their home planet, then several ships move back to the homeworld. Eric stood and saluted. Wow, we can do that? Ellie saluted back. This area here is only 500 mly from our main hop highway. The target ships are 300 mly away from their homeworlds. We have 810 ships in the area, and if we locate 400 here and another 400 here, we can move half of these ships back to their homeworlds in less than 10 minutes from the time the boss waves his hands. Gantley exclaimed, That's incredible, Ellie. Ellie saluted, and Gantley saluted back. Our major issues were reprogramming the targeted TPs and the power blip. But Bakamina and Dasternan's collusion had these in a tight grip. But now it's all done, and we can start using the new gun. Ellie said. Andrew shook his head. Not again, Ellie. You cannot do this to me. If you begin this rap, all will take the flap. And Olive will start, and I will not look smart. Ellie saluted in a snap. Okay, no more rap. Let me go back to the map. We can position our ships here to be in the middle of the 2 species, and beam them in and talk to them. Tabuda stood and gave a salute. Andrew, if I may? Yes, you may. But did you intend the salute to come my way? Tabuda explained, it was really a shotgun salute, intended for everyone to shoot. Anyway, our people have studied the Atoms and Lebits, their food, manners and practices, technology and culture, and so many other things. These species are really funny and amazingly nice beings. The reason why they even went into war posture is because they felt hurt that as nice people they encounter a species that are mean to them. But the other species is really as nice as them. They simply thought of the other species in the wrong way. They are really good people in their own way, if only they are given a say. Eric saluted. So our task is to be nice to them. Tell them to be nice to each other. Treat the other equally like a brother. Andrew returned the salute. Andrew heard this before. Eric, guys, just remember, the last time we were nice, we were all had. The group laughed. Eric countered, it did not turn out that bad, even if we all were really had. Eric saluted and Andrew returned the salute. Tabuda saluted and Eric returned the salute. One amazing thing about the Atoms is that they smoke a lot of this stuff. We analyzed the stuff, and it's a cross between your weed and alcohol. Very weak stuff, so we made it more concentrated. We synthesized the stuff into liquid form and mixed it with brandy, and it turned out dandy. Now the Lebits have this drink that has some alcohol, 5% of volume, and they drink this at the end of every shift of about 10 hours. We realized also that they are addicted to their drinks, like all of them are alcoholics. Tabuda said, so are they addicts, or are they alcoholics? Andrew asked. Ellie saluted, sir. The Lebbets are addicted alcoholics while the Antoms are addicted smokers. Andrew returned the salute. Alcoholics are addicts already, to alcohol. Tabuda countered and saluted. Ellie saluted back and continues. The Antoms have a very basic form of fusion technology, but the power generated is so small they have 10 generators for their small ships. These generators are also very large and very hard to operate. The Lebbets also have a fusion generator but slightly more advanced, takes up less space but generates almost the same amount of power per generator. Their ships are always conserving power when they raise their shields since their energy generation capacity is almost equal or slightly more than the rated ship requirement. What else would they need from us? Tabuda saluted and Andrew returned the salute. Our infiltrators noticed that the two species love diamonds. They put so much value on diamonds. They also love their food. The Antoms are more meat eaters than the Lebbets are. They love cooking and the art of cooking. Ellie saluted. How about gold? Tabuda saluted. Yes, that too, but not as highly as diamonds. Andrew saluted and asked, how are they organized or governed? Tabuda saluted. The Antoms have councils. Each planet has a council, and they have a council for all their planets. Very democratic and egalitarian. While the Antoms live only 200 years on the average, each of them serve in the military for 40 years. The Lebbets have councils as well but larger, like 5 times the number per planet council and 10 times in the interplanetary council as the Antoms even if they have fewer planets. These people love to talk, often formally, bordering on comedic. Eric saluted and Andrew returned the salute. Boss, I think they just need travel experience. We can also open trade among the two. Junie chimed in. I don't think we should give the two anything except tell them to be nice or else. Then open up trade between them, and they will be okay. Andrew noted, you did not salute Junie. Junie countered. I saluted in my head using my head. You did not notice me, but I did this. He tilted his head a bit. That's it, a tilting head salute. Okay, I will salute back in my head also. Is that a shotgun type of salute or intended for me? Andrew tilted his head. Junie explained. It was for everybody. He remembered his king. He used to just do this head tilting to greet and acknowledge anybody. He had 5 more head movements that his people have learned to understand. I agree with Junie. We do not need to give them anything to be nice to them. Just introduce them to each other as their long-lost brothers. We can hasten this by providing a few TPs between them. And since we already have 5 TPS towards their galaxies from our main TP highway, we can let them trade with the other aliens. Andrew said. Junie tilted his head a bit again. We can leave travel and trade advisors. Tabuda saluted, and this time Andrew did not salute but tilted his head, or advisor groups. Remember, they have several planets. Will the TPs give them longer lives? Andrew asked. Ellie stood and saluted, sir. We are still looking at that possibility. But I believe it will since the effect of the TPs is on organic matter. Andrew saluted with his head. We can tell them we will reward them with long life if they behave, but conditioned on everyone traveling to the other species area at least once every 2 months. Eric summarized. So we tell them to travel using the TPs and tell them we reward them with long life if they do this? That's cheating. Lasheen added. When they realize that the TPs actually does this? Ellie countered. Dr. Reek did not know the effect of the TPs until I told him about it. If nobody talks, the Joker walks. Junie added. If they realize it, then we simply say that nobody told us about this also. Tabuda explained. I don't think they will find out. If we spread word among the Armada that nobody tells these guys, then the story will fly for a very long time. So the Armada is pulling a practical joke on 2 species. Lasheen said. Andrew looked at her. Lasheen. For their benefit, not ours. Eric added, sure boss, if you say so. Everybody laughs. Andrew stood, okay, now that's settled. Olive replay to these people Todd's discussion on his reality shows. Olive provided several holograms of the meeting with Todd Burns, discussing the shows the group intended to do. After the presentation, the mission room was quiet. Olive repeated the presentation. Gantley started, so this is why you wanted an ongoing reality show? Gantley saluted using an open palm. Andrew returned the salute. Andrew was surprised. Gantley, why an open palm salute? This is my displeased salute. I will salute like this when I am displeased so people would know I am not happy. Andrew nodded, thinking that's probably logical for an int key. Okay guys, let's all go and get something to eat. Maybe food will open our minds to what drama there is. Andrew said. All in the mission room stood quietly and started to move out. The next day, Andrew, we are well within beaming range of the Lebits and the Anthems. I want you to put a raised floor at the reception hall like this high, so that when we talk to the two parties they would be lower. Maybe a U-shaped raised floor like this, then put a table and chairs so more of our people can sit. It would be easier to put a floating floor. Fine, floating floor then. Make sure it's this high. Ellie beamed in. Sir, the ships are deploying towards the Anthem and Lebit galaxies, 300 on one side and 300 on the other. Our ships and 150 other ships have positioned themselves between the Anthems and Lebit's engagement area. I think we should just TP their command ships and leave the rest of their ships where they are. We can also beam the remaining ships closer to each other. Olive noted. Eric, Lachine, Linda, and Junie have gone ahead and positioned themselves at the middle of the two galaxies with 50 ships. Ellie added. The Norsets have essentially taken control of all the vital ship functions of all the target ships. We can turn the power on and off when we arrive or leave. Or we can move things around in their ships. Very good, Ellie. Olive, tell the guys to assemble at the mission room. Come on, Ellie, let's go. Olive beamed Andrew and Ellie to the reception hall. Andrew found the floating floor looked very modern combined with the metal tables. He found steps at the back of the floating floor and stepped up. He sat at the middle of the center table. Andrew had designated 50 of the commanders to participate in the exercise. Then, like on cue, almost all the commanders designated in this part of the operations beamed in. They then seated themselves where their name was. The name also mentions the kind of species the commander should appear as. Olive advised each one of them where they would be sitting and provided them the chameleon devices when they were already seated. Gantley asked, Andrew, so all the Armada aliens are represented in this table? Yes, so when we beam the two groups in front of us, they would see a sort of council, like we judge their actions. Tonin added, I like the idea, an all-powerful council of aliens. Ellie suggested, let's call this the Inter-Alien Council. They all nodded. Okay guys, sit. Last night I had a dream. He stood, I would like these people to travel to Earth on a pilgrimage to pay homage to the Armada people. Andrew explained. They would arrive there in 10 years. Ellie noted. Not if we beam their ships over. Look, the highway have 2 lines of Tosban ships. We can equip just 1 line of ships to have this quarterback capability. We will do this anyway, so why not start now? And once we do, why don't we start with these 2 species? Ellie exclaimed, Sir, you are crazy. They all laugh. Gantley countered. I think the drama is good. Earth will turn upside down with 2 alien group coming over to pay homage and to tell the invaders how immensely powerful the Armada is. That we can transfer the ships through billions of light years in a few minutes. Ellie noted, okay, we can have some people on Earth erect a sort of building or fashionable edifice to look like an Armada monument, complete with stories of all the Armada adventures and alien encounters. On Mount Olympus. Eric commented. Ellie asked, which one? The one in Greece is too crowded. The one in Washington State is a mountain preserve. Let's do the one in Washington State. Olive, tell Danny to do the work. Andrew said. You have to be more specific on what you like. Olive said. Ellie explained, Sir, I think that we should let a group study where the origins could ideally have started. For one, the mountain in Washington State is too remote for a group to even start anything there. There should always be an air of mystery and unanimity, something that existed but was never noticed, but still very accessible to civilization, like next door. Eric agreed, and, after the group choose the place, we should run a concept and design contest. After a few weeks, we'll decide on the best design, have a group refine the winning idea and design, and that is what Danny will build for us. They all nodded. Ellie, since it's your idea to look for the ideal place, you head the group that will choose the place. Andrew said, I have some in mind. Tonin suggested, why don't we just go over to the home worlds of the invaders and tell their leaders to pay homage to the Armada also? Eric looked at Tonin. That is even crazier than Boss Andrew's idea. Tonin answered, hey, we are all a bunch of crazy Armada people. None of the people here is not crazy. Maybe Ellie would be the least, but she started all of this anyway. Did Tony lay out a hop line to the invaders' home world? Andrew asked, shifting the conversation. Yes, he did, and 300 MLY further out in 6 lines. He also deployed thousands of Mac spies and hackers. Olive showed the vast London galaxies. They occupy 20 planets, total population is 28 billion, and a host of settlements. Very advanced, but not a lot of experience in warfare, except for one enemy. Data collected by Max on the ground point to an aggressive race that they had bad encounters in several occasions in their recent past. I see a setup, Gantley said. Maybe not even. They are preparing for an invasion when the Maccabee convinced them to go to Earth by providing plasma cannons for their defense. An invasion is imminent. Olive said. I see an all-powerful armada saving the day. Tonin said. Tonin, can you send 20 scout ships and recon the area and their enemies' planets? Andrew said. Exactly what I was thinking. Tonin said. I guess our lives are never easy. Ellie commented. Later that day. Olive, do I deploy a cassock or my GX-1 uniform? Nobody will appear in a cassock or a GX-1 uniform. Andrew was surprised, but thought it's probably logical. They are all in the reception hall already. Olive said. Okay, be me there. Olive announced his presence as Andrew appeared. All stood sharply and saluted. The reception hall was like a costume party. Everybody had a different costume. Ellie wore a metallic-looking armor vest with a red cape. Linda was an all-white, also with a white cape, appearing like a floating ghost. Eric wore a Civil War-era Union officer uniform, while Roger wore a Chinese-inspired gold tunic. Junie's was weird even to Andrew's standards. He was wearing a wire uniform, with wires over and around his head. He has wires running through his hands and feet. Gantley was wearing his formal wear, but with a lot of medals. Andrew found this odd since Inkeys never give medals. Where's Tonin? Andrew asked. I am here, Andrew. His mask flipped open. He was wearing a bourbon-inspired body with 4 working tentacles. His arms were armored with the same material as the tentacles. Andrew wanted to laugh, but he noticed everybody appeared to be in a very serious mood. Even Bennett, a Trunty, donned a hairy mask, which does not improve his appearance to be even slightly different from what they look like. Andrew, we can beam the 2 groups over. 20 Anthems on this side and 20 Levitts on the right side. Their main leaders would be in front and slightly higher than the rest. Turning the ship cloak invisible, Andrew looked around, and he saw everybody disappeared, and he and Olive were the only ones on the table. Go ahead. The Anthems and Levitts appeared in time boxes. Olive released their heads, and everybody started shouting. Then Andrew noticed the whole place turned crimson invisible, and his commanders floated into the room. The Anthems and Levitts became quiet as they saw a parade of floating aliens. As the commanders seated themselves, Olive beamed translators around the necks of the Anthems and Levitts. Olive, get the Anthem Council Leader and the Levitt Council Leader here, please. Andrew said. An Anthem and a Levitt appears. Then the 2 started shouting. Linda stood and shouted, Stop shouting. The 2 stopped. Andrew, Linda told me to have the time box all the way to their mouths. Olive said. She told him through his implant. Olive exclaimed, We will all talk in English. The Anthems and Levitts started shouting. The 2 council leaders could only move their eyes. Andrew stood, Okay, I want you all to be quiet. All were frozen except for the 3 top commanders of both sides. Both groups became quiet. My name is Ezek and I am the leader of the Anthem 1st Defense Force. An Anthem said. And you are? Andrew asked. My name is Easty, commander of the Levitt 1st Armada. Olive introduced the group as the Inter-Alien Council and point to each commander, the species he appears in, and tells them the commander's name twice. This is Andrew, a human from the planet Earth. Andrew is the leader of this council. All the while the group was quiet. Andrew started, Tell me, Ezek, Easty, why are you poised to go to war with each other? Ezek answered, These people are savages with no sense of honor and decorum. Easty countered, Our civilization is more advanced than yours. To us you are all uncouth, uncivilized, and without manners. Ellie started with a question. If you start fighting and destroy all of your ships around this area, who would clean up the mess you made? Ezek reacted first. Why would we clean up the area in the first place? Easty agreed. I don't see why. Andrew noted, You 2 seem to be in agreement already. Okay, we are the Council of Aliens who takes care of the galaxies around us spanning 40 BLY. If I go into your house, Ezek, Easty, and scatter all my food and things around in your house, you would think I am uncivilized, unclean, uncouth, dirty, and ill-mannered. Right. Of course. And I would surely ask you to leave my house. Ezek said. Easty added, I would never accept an unclean person in my house. Ellie asked, So who would clean up your mess then? The 2 looked at each other. Do you have the capability to clean up the mess you will generate after you battle it out? Ezek, Easty? Linda asked. Ezek answered, We cannot imagine why we would have to clean. Ellie asked again, Can you clean the area in the first place? No, we do not have the capability to clean the area. Ezek said. How about you, Easty? Andrew asked. I don't think we can. Eric stood and, Exactly. We would clean up your mess because you are all incapable of cleaning up after you do whatever it is that you do to mess up the area. He shouted and pointed at the two. Tonin added, you are in our galaxy and we absolutely do not want to make our galaxies dirty. Do you know where we will dump all your mess when we are done cleaning the area? Ezek countered, the galaxies is a very large place. You can dump anything anywhere. Tonin exclaimed, we will dump the dirt onto all your planets. All your body parts, dead bodies and pieces of your ships will be dumped in your planets because you generated them. Look, we do not like you to engage in any war around the area and scatter debris and mess up the place. Just go home and be nice to each other. Grow up to be great civilizations together. Andrew said, and if we refuse to leave the area? Ezek asked, move 10 each of their main command ships back to their planet. Andrew said, the ships will appear in their home planet orbit in a few seconds. Olive said, I will send you back to your command ships near your planet, and you will tell your leaders that we want all your forces to be back in your home planet orbit, or we will bring them there ourselves. Then we want you to be nice to each other. Sir, why don't we just start bringing all their ships back? It will take a few hours, but we will do it anyway. Ellie asked Andrew through Olive in his implant. Andrew nodded, okay. Ezek, Easty, we decided that we will bring all your ships back. We will meet again tomorrow. And if we do not show up? Easty asked. Gantley explained, if you don't, you will miss tasting the best drink in the galaxies. Easty noted, in that case, I will show up. Olive beamed all the Antums and Lebits, including the council leaders, back to their command ships. The next day, Andrew, all the Antum and Lebit ships are back near their capital planets. They have started to go down to their planets, Olive said, and pointed to a hologram of small ships leaving the main fleet. The Max report that the councils have met and understood the situation. Olive, it's showtime once again. Are the guys ready? Yes, but give them an hour because some are having trouble with their costumes. An hour later, Andrew found the reception hall full of his commanders already. All were seated and quietly talking. They all stood and saluted when Olive announced Andrew. Andrew laughed at Tonin, you don't have to salute with 6 hands. Tonin answered, it's a programming glitch my people cannot fix yet. Ellie shouted at Tonin, that's what they tell you. The group laughed. Olive beamed all the top military commanders and council leaders. As usual, there were 2 groups comprising of 20 people. This time the Antum and Lebits do not have weapons with them. Still, Olive froze them up to their necks and put the translators on. Andrew started, okay guys, what's your answer? Easty, Ezek, you do the talking. Ezek answered first, we will stop our war and extend friendship if the other does the same. Eastley added, we agree to stop the war and extend a friendly hand towards them. He pointed to the Antums. Gantley exclaimed, great. Your species are wise. If you can just move our ships around and move our people around, you must be very powerful. Easty said, you mean like gods? Ellie asked, exactly how our leaders understand the situation. Ezek said, we are not gods. Just your regular Armada Council bringing peace and goodwill to the galaxies. Although sometimes we go on a pilgrimage to where the Armada started. Andrew said as he started the suggestion. Lasheen followed through, I believe that it will do you wonders to travel to a place where aliens are more or less accepted, and that you can go on a similar pilgrimage to the place where the Armada was born. All the 50 alien council members looked serious. Nobody answered with Lasheen's follow-up. Eric added, we are glad with your decision and would like to help facilitate your friendship with each other by providing galaxy gates so you can travel from any Antum planet to any Lebit planet almost instantaneously. We will install thousands of these gates that you can use. We will teach you how to operate them. Tonin said and insisted earlier that they provide the Antums and Lebits the old Norset gateways which are slower. They have not been used with the arrival of the TP technology and they have thousands in stock. The group did not agree because they will not live long if they use the Norset gates. They did agree to provide the older TPs that were manually operated and were gathering dust in one of the storage planets. Bakamana chimed in, now if you promise to use these gates and go over to each other's planets in pursuit of closer integration, we will reward you with longer lives. You will live 3 or 4 times your average lifetimes. We would know who used these gateways and who did not. If you did not use them, you will not have longer lives. Now this is really not something we usually do, and we would appreciate it very much if you do not mention this longer lives benefit to other species other than your own. Let's say that this is your special reward for being good to each other. Dasternan followed through, we will also provide your people with technology that will bring good health to your people, and a lot of your happy potion. You will give these technologies to us in exchange for? Easty asked. Andrew answered, as we said, in order to facilitate your integration as friends and to help you out. We believe that friendship will absolutely benefit both your species. Look, you both have well-meaning, kind, and egalitarian societies. You are not warring species. War is not something you do. Of course, we have one request, and this is that you treat us and other aliens as your equals. Would you do this for us? You are not gods, and you just want us to treat you as we treat ourselves, equally? Ezek asked. Ellie added, yes, that is our one and only request. Now, if you go on a pilgrimage to our origin, we would appreciate it, because we believe you will learn so much as a species on this pilgrimage. It will also add to your longer lives. Second follow-up. Eastleigh exclaimed, Council Master Alex, I would suggest that we go on a pilgrimage to the origins of the Armada Council. Alex nodded. We would like to go also. Ezek said. Andrew stood and, we will release you from being frozen if you promise to behave with civility and courtesy. They all said yes. Very well. Let's start with 2 ships for each of you and schedule your pilgrimage, say a few months from now. We want you to cozy up to the peace first. We will leave in a few days after we transfer the technologies to you. We will leave some ships to oversee the transfer of technology. We will tell you when you can go on a pilgrimage with some of our alien friends. The pilgrimage site is 7 BLY away. It may seem far to you, but we will ease your travel by bringing your ships to the pilgrimage planet in less than a day. Andrew nodded to Olive, and all the Antoms and Lebits were freed from the time boxes. May I direct you to the 4 long tables at the end of the hall? We would like the Antoms to sit on one side and the Lebits on the other. Our council leaders will sit between each of you. Olive said. As the Antoms and Lebits approached the table, several cups filled with ice cream appeared. Andrew sat beside Eastie, while Gantley sat beside Ezek, who was across Andrew. Gantley started the ice cream demonstration, and Andrew could see Lachine doing the same at the next table. As usual, the Antoms and Lebits reacted with amazement. We know you love your food, but let us provide you with some basic Armada fare. Andrew said. Several steaks on plates appear. He got a piece, sliced it, and put it into his mouth. The aliens did the same, and as usual another amazement. Gantley added, okay, these are called steaks, and I do not particularly like to eat these, but most of the alien species do. May I direct you to these bottles? These are what will bind friends forever. He poured himself some brandy and drank. This time the aliens gave a noisier approval. By the way, all these are being broadcasted in all your ships and in your cities. Right now they will see you are all happy and noisy. Olive declared. Andrew stood. May I propose a toast to the Antoms and Lebits? May your species thrive and prosper in this new friendship among aliens. He raised his glass and drank. All the Armada people did as Andrew did. The Antoms and Lebits started slow but easily caught on. In 2 hours the Antoms and Lebits were embracing each other and even dancing together. 2 weeks later, Olive announced, the Vars London galaxies will be in beaming range in an hour. The men are waiting at the mission room. At the mission room, as usual, Andrew was saluted as he walked into the room. Gantley saluted with a regular salute. Andrew saluted, and he realized that Gantley is not angry. Let me start. And yes, I am not angry, Andrew. Gantley smiled at him. Stop reading my mind, Gantley. Gantley started, okay, based on the reports from our Groundmax and Inky operatives, there was a recent incident where the Vars London enemies called Toms ambushed and abducted the king, King John, and some royalty, some commanders and planet leaders. Now the Toms wanted the plasma technology and several million slaves in exchange for the king and his leaders. The queen, her name is Seahill, is not inclined to agree because she believes a double cross would happen. Where are the king and his people being held? Gantley explained. The intel does not have a clear answer but lists possibilities. One is at the Tom capital planet, and this is more logical. One says, in one of the ships that are parked midway between the Vars London and Tom galaxies. There are other places, but the Norsets believe these are all planted intel. The Toms look like a cross between a Tosban gorilla and the Antoms, like this. Floating before them was an Antom-looking gorilla, slim, not fat like the Tosbans, colored brown, as usual, with less hair. Their faces also have less hair, but have small noses like the Antoms. Tonin asked, so these gorillas abducted the Vars London king, and they want the plasma and a bunch of slaves in exchange for their prisoners? Gantley explained. The slaves are a normal requirement, since they are invading the Vars London to acquire slaves. In fact, the news organizations in the Vars London galaxies tally the slaves they have lost to their enemy. Their present count stands at roughly 80 million. Several planet settlements were systematically overrun and their settlers taken as slaves. The Macs concluded that the invasion was really an act of desperation, and the Maccabees knew about their desperation and played on it. They have no real experience in war, and their society is beset with so many issues. They believe they have overextended their settlements to far-off planets without strong organizational support. They have 20 high-density planets where the population is at least 1 billion and more than 50 settlement planets. Now they realize their issues, but have not made any effort to rein in their colonizers. It's really because they just can't. How many ships do they have? Andrew asked Gantley. Roughly 15,000 Ventus-sized ships with speeds at a slow 10 ly per day. Weapons are standard plasma cannons, but their shields are very low-tech. Linda added, we can expect other species as slaves among the Toms. And you know how this will play out. Lachine agreed, yes, we can expect to travel to where no Armada has traveled before to bring them all back. Andrew noted, I am really worried that the outing will happen without us. They all laugh. Junie commented, if you think about it, Tonan's idea for a pilgrimage by the Varst London may not be as crazy as it sounds. They all laughed and cheered Tonan. Bakamina noted, so I get it, we would have to line the hops with our new hop ship capabilities. She looked at Ellie. Ellie looked at Andrew. Sir, my people has mapped out a development strategy for the hop improvements we intend to do. The main issue is security and system integration. I would have to visit the Norsets and Max to make the technology integrate well with the existing network. I would be bringing with me a team of 15 science ships and 10 regular Armada ships for the project. Bakamina will take over in our absence. She has 10 science ships. Andrew answered, actually, I also want you to look over the DG operations. Remember, the Maccabees will deliver 10 DGs to the Talonauts. I think you should assign Rebecca over to the Talonauts to head the DG operations. Yes, that too, sir. I'm surprised you did not make me feel bad for leaving you. As I said, winning can really result to depression, but I guess I am getting used to this. By the way, Eric, Roger, Junie, Gantley, and Tonan suggested that this technology only be available for Armada use, and I agree. Understood. This limitation will actually make the network more secure and easier to manage. Ellie saluted and beamed out. Gantley exclaimed, continuing, the Macs have identified where the Queen and her leaders are, and we can talk to them in about an hour. We can make the king and his leaders kiss our ass when we return them to their people. Andrew said, and the group noisily disagreed. Okay, fine, a pilgrimage at the very least. Andrew countered, have the Macs tried to read the minds of the guerrillas? Gantley answered, they can't get through. What they hear are all noise and static. Tonan noted, I sure want to listen to that. They all laugh. Gantley explained, the ground team commanders are confident they will be able to know where the king and his people are by tomorrow. Continuing, the 20 forward ships have started tagging those in the ships and bombing them. They will be deploying to the ships near the capital, and all ship tagging will be finished by tomorrow. Eric countered, I think we should just go over to the guerrillas and fix their issues. We have a lot of slaves to deal with. Unlike the Talonauts who are well organized, the slave problem might overwhelm the Queen, and they may not be able to help the slaves at all. Linda agreed, I agree. We can bring the other aliens home, but where do we bring 80 million slaves? We can spread them out evenly to all their occupied high-density planets. But then if they are not organized at all, this could be a problem. If we talk to the Queen, we could find out. Andrew said, I agree. Let's go down and talk to her as holograms. Tonan said, Olive, is the Queen available already? Andrew asked. She's at their war room with a lot of her generals. I can beam you at the end of the room. Your translators are on the table. Andrew looked around and the guys nodded. They moved to the back of the bridge to get their devices. Greetings, Queen Seahill. My name is Andrew. This is Tonan, Eric, Gantley, Linda, Junie, and Lachine. As usual, the guards and several officers shot at them. It was quite a while before the shooting stopped, but Andrew and his group just kept still. What do you want? Queen Seahill asked. Andrew started to explain. We would like to return all your slaves and bring them to 20 of your planets. But normally, we put them all in one planet first, then we move them back as soon as they are processed. Our concern is that you might not be able to handle this much number of slaves, and they could suffer. We would like to know if you can handle them. Seahill spoke slowly. You will bring my people home to our planets? Yes, but we probably will bring the king and his people first before we bring in the rest. We don't know where he is right now, but we will by tomorrow. Seahill slowly asked, you will bring the king home to us? When? Andrew looked at Gantley. If we find him tomorrow, maybe by the end of the day, Gantley said. Seahill explained, he is being held at the palace. The other royal family are being held in the palace holding houses. Tonan countered, he's not there. That's what they want you to believe. In all probability, he is in one of the ships. But don't concern yourself with this. We will find him in a few hours, and he will be here a few hours after. What for? Why are you doing this? Sehil asked. Andrew explained. We are the Inter-Alien Council tasked to keep the peace in the galaxies spanning 40 BLY. We do not like slavery, and we would prefer to keep the peace within our area of responsibility. Sehil commented. I don't think you understand what you are doing. All we want is your assurance that you can take care of the slaves we would be bringing back home. Will you be able to take care of their needs? Andrew asked. I believe we can. Sehil said. Gantley continued. Will you mobilize your people to do this now? We will tell you the planet where they are by tomorrow. Sehil asked. When will my people be back? They will start moving into the designated planet in 1 week. Gantley said. What do you want for this fantastic promise to return the king and my people? Sehil asked. Normally we just request that you treat the various species in our armada as your equal. But since you do not believe that we can do as we say, we will require that you go to where the armada originated to pay homage. Finally, we require that you leave the Toms alone and not wage war on them. Andrew explained. I don't believe you. Sehil said. Andrew countered. Things will happen however you believe. We will remove all the Toms from their ships, remove all the weapons and shipbuilding capabilities. We will tell the Tom Emperor not to venture out of his galaxies without our permission and never to hold any slave ever again. We will return all the other slaves from different species to their planets. You must be joking. Sehil said. Gantley countered. Once your king appears, he will tell you what happened, and you better be prepared to take care of the refugees. We will tell him what we told you. If he does not agree, we will remove all your ships, destroy all your weapons and shipbuilding capabilities, and tell you not to venture out of our galaxies, or we will destroy your ships. Normally, we would like to keep the peace in the area. But if both parties insist in going to war and not adhering to peace, both will be disarmed and detained until we agree to let you out. Please prepare for refugee work. Andrew said. Back at the bridge, Olive announced, they have found the king and the royalty. They are in one of the ships near the capital planet. They will all be tagged within the hour. Gantley exclaimed, Great. I would suggest you beam the king and his group out right away. Beam them in time boxes and TP them here. I agree. Andrew said. I'm going to the mess hall. Roger said. We'll all go. Andrew agreed. After 2 hours, at Andrew's bridge, Gantley started. Let's just get the king and his party over. Andrew nodded. Olive, put them in time boxes at the back of the reception hall. After a few minutes, the king and some royalty appeared in time boxes. Olive, release the king only. King John. Greetings. Andrew said. He introduced the guys in the reception hall. Gantley related their talk with Sehil. He then repeated their demands, which was to be treated as equals, to go on a pilgrimage, and not to wage war on the Toms. You don't have to go on a pilgrimage now, but maybe in 6 months or so. We hope you will talk to the Queen about these demands. When will I see the Queen? John asked. Gantley looked at Andrew. Anytime you like. Do you want to see her now? John thought for a while. Not really. She can wait. Maybe you can explain to me first, or show me what you intend to do with the Toms. Andrew responded. Give us about a week. Then you can watch when we start our operations. Aren't you excited to be back to your queen? As I said, she can wait. Let me see how you do things. Fine, Junie. You're John's mentor. Andrew said. What about my people? John asked. Olive answered. They are frozen in time. Do you want us to bring them to the queen? Andrew asked. If they show up, the queen will think I am still a prisoner. Good. Send them all back. John said. You want a queen to worry? Linda asked. Absolutely. I am beginning to like you, John. Roger quipped. I am already married, Roger. The group laughed. Andrew stood. You must be really hungry. Why don't we head over to the mess hall and get you something to eat? Sir, you are a mind reader. Meanwhile, back at Albert Baker Space Station near Earth, Todd Burns and Andy walked into the mission hall of USSB Baker. The place was packed, and some had to stand at one side, and some sat on the steps of the aisle. Then Harold walked in with Albert. Everybody stood. Harold started. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Albert gestured. Please sit. He could see Alan on his right with his commanders, and Todd and Andy on his left sitting on the aisle. He saw Maria and Edna at the top of the ascending row of chairs. He saw Princess Namine and several alien groups at the upper right. Albert continued, Are you all ready to start the biggest prank Earth has ever known? The crowd shouted a loud affirmative. I believe you already know how this will play out. But 2 alien groups just came on board 4 days ago, and they are on fast learning mode to be in on the game. He gestured to the center front to acknowledge the leader of the Anthems and Levitts who arrived for the pilgrimage. They were the museum's first visitors. Albert, Harold, and their people went with them to see what's up. When the Levitts and Anthems arrived with 10 ships each, using the new quarterback technology Ellie has set up with the Tosban line of hop ships, Alan, Albert, and Harold's groups were surprised. Andrew did not give them any warning or forward intel or anything about his pilgrimage project. He told Olive that the intel on the quarterback technology should be on a need-to-know basis and purely for Armada use. He then convinced Harold and Albert that all new alien groups would be told about this, and without much thought, the two agreed. The Armada Museum has just been completed a month ago. It was built as an invisible structure on top of the Devil's Tower by Danny, and the museum groups have just started to reach out to Harold's network to facilitate the tours and visits. Andrew sent an old Vinta, assigned it to General Elliot, with a lot of TPs to assist in the project. Elliot took the museum project from Danny and decided on making it a formal engagement and very alien-friendly. They soon realized that it was one of the larger Tosban ships, reconditioned and rebuilt for the purpose. The reconstruction crew put a half-disc the size of the party place extending on its two sides. They also cut up large portions of the sidewalls to put up windows so the inside would be turned into restaurants and souvenir shops with views of the outside. Danny let it float on top of the Devil's Mountain 10 yards above the top and made it permanently invisible. Harold decided that all the outing groups go through the museum to be more familiar with Armada history and technologies. He effectively closed the whole place for the museum except in the month of June. Harold announced, "Okay, 3 months ago more than 100 of Alan's people substituted the leaders of the Varst London headed over here to demand that we turn over the Armada leaders. This is important so we have control of all the participants. Before we substituted the leaders, Andrew advised us that the Varst London King and more than 100,000 commanders and men have joined the Armada. So we sent the actual leaders we substituted to Andrew to work under them, under the Varst London King." Albert added, "Tomorrow the greatest show on Earth will begin. The Varst London will appear in orbit and make first contact with the U.S. leadership. A day later, Nameen will appear. Then each of the other aliens appear a day after each other. The Levitt and Anthems will be the last to appear near Earth orbit." Todd stood and walked beside Albert. "Todd here will explain the general plans." Todd stood and, "Hello. The most important thing is that we would have to show that there was no planning involved and everything is randomly happening. That all of these are real and happening without any script or somebody directing the flow of events. The whole show has been divided into parts." A Gantt chart appears behind him, and he started to explain the events as time progresses. Then he went on to explain the reality shows listed in the chart. There would be 48 reality shows that would be running at the same time all over the world. Half of these are in the US but with worldwide distribution. The shows in other countries would also be shown here in the US and other countries using other distributors. 24 of these would be directed by alien directors, Inky, Max, Maccabee, Grib, Marinti, Talonot, and so on. All would be appearing as humans. Half of the US shows would be shown by our network, while the other half were given to various networks. All of the foreign shows will be shown by the other networks. There will be a ramp-up time of a month before all the shows are on stream. Albert spoke, "I want you all to realize that these shows will be shown in a lot of alien worlds. They will get to know you, and you will definitely become famous, like movie actors. The alien audience will also judge your performance. So I would suggest that you do your part well. The shows will be entered in various alien movie award organizations. Maybe you could win the best show, or best actor, or whatever. If you desire to leave the operations for a while, you have to give a chameleon device to your substitute to appear as you, but the performance of the sub will be rated as yours, so choose your subs well." The next day, right after lunch, the Varst London ships appeared.